Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. It is Monday, July 20th, 2026. The World Cup is officially over. Congratulations, the beautiful and amazing country of Spain, for winning the World Cup. What an outstanding performance that was for Spain, the entire World Cup. And the final, it was really amazing. And the final set some interesting records. This is the first time in World Cup history where for the first 90 minutes of regulation, Argentina didn't have a single shot. Not one shot. I mean, their first shot didn't come until the extra time. I mean, this is the first time in World Cup history. I mean, Spain's defense was outstanding, just really amazing. Now, there were three other occasions where no shot on goal, because not only did they not have a single shot, and that includes the third one is this one, but there were two other times in World Cup history where they had not a single shot on target on the actual goal. And that was Argentina versus, at the time, West Germany, when it was still West Germany in 1990, and then Argentina versus Germany in 2014. So there have been three times where not a single shot on actual goal. And it was Argentina, West Germany, 1990, Argentina, Germany, 2014. And then, of course, yesterday, Argentina versus Spain. But really amazing. But it was really the first time in the 90-minute regulation where no shot ever taken. But Argentina's amazing. You got to give it to them. I mean, I thought for sure that they were going to tie it because they really do come back strong at the end. But Spain, incredible. Absolutely amazing performance for Spain. And who knew? If Argentina had not declared their independence, then they would have won the World Cup. I guess you could look at it that way in a way, right? It's like, hey, why did you guys claim your independence back in 18? I don't know. I'm not the best with Argentinian history, but, they could have had the World Cup right there. But amazing, absolutely amazing performance. And what an outstanding World Cup. I'm not even the biggest soccer fan in the world, but I will say this. This was fantastic. The format. Okay, 1810, July 9th, 1810. Thank you, Sonia. So there you go. If y'all hadn't rebelled and declared your independence from Spain, then everyone would have been a winner. Oh, those are fighting words. I need to move on. Okay, but congratulations. Fantastic and really amazing World Cup. I think they put on a spectacular performance. Really, every country. I like this new format. I really, really like this new format. Even Sonia's like, Argentina did not show up yesterday. Spain deserved the win. I do agree with you in the sense of Spain, the entire World Cup, just really amazing. Absolutely incredible. And I'm not even the biggest soccer fan in the world. I won't even watch another soccer game between now and next World Cup. But I'm telling you, I was canceling appointments. I'm like, I don't care that's your wedding. I don't care. It's World Cup's going on. I've got to watch that game. So really fantastic, amazing. Only one goal scored against them the whole cup, which is amazing. It's incredible. So, and Maria's in Spain right now. I cannot even imagine the vibe there. Did you make it out to the celebrations, Maria? How was it out there? Okay, Maria's like, yes, that's exciting. That is absolutely exciting. And you all, and Ava, I need to congratulate Ava. So really exciting. Y'all, lots going on here in the beautiful, gorgeous city of Austin, Texas. Super excited to go over what's happening with the market here in Austin. And we do have a few things to celebrate here in Austin. Our lake is full. Lake Travis is over the capacity. Not that it's over the spillway. That's another, 12, 15 feet or something like that. But it's at capacity. So over 100% capacity, which is really exciting. It's good for our area. Of course, the rains, terrible rains, a lot of destruction, but, and it's awful just to see people losing lives and homes. Now we do have flash floods and it does increase our lake. So we are fortunate that the lake is at over 100%. So amazing how much water can flow into Lake Travis. Let's go ahead and get started with our amazing new list independent ratio, the single best leading market indicator available for the entire area. And this is going to give us that insight on what's happening with the real-time market, what's happening right now. Not what happened a month ago, 2-3 months ago, but what is the condition of the market right now. Keep in mind that we always focus in the 6-county area: Travis, Williamson, Hayes, Bastrop, Caldwell, and Burnett counties. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go backwards in time a little bit from the 6th to the 13th. We're going to update the active under contract. This is going to change to 546, and then we're going to update the pending just to make sure that we are capturing every single activity that's gone on, because agents are really bad when it comes to updating pendings and active under contract. That goes up to 348. Only when the information is updated going back 2 weeks, then we no longer update it. So this is going, okay, so there we go. It's all updated. So I figured we'd be updating more, but this is already all updated. And there we have it. So let's take a look at the previous few weeks before we start updating this week. We can see that 2 weeks ago, the ratio for the week is currently at 0.59, whereas the same week a year ago at a 0.68. So we have now been lagging the previous year, same exact week last year, 3 weeks in a row. It's a combination of more new listings entering the market and less listings going under contract. So we had a little 1 week off back in June 1st through June 8th, where it broke a pretty substantial run that we had there, a 15-week run where we were outperforming the previous week. We had a little bit of a pause right there, June 1st. We picked back up substantially from a 0.76, 0.70, 0.78, 0.71, and then it slowed back down again here over the past 3 weeks. So let's see what's going on this week from the 13th to the 20th. Before we do that, let me go ahead and show you this one. Ignore this last line. This is going to be the one that we're going to be updating. In the trend that we have seen over the past few weeks, it's an increase on the number of new listings entering the market, and then a slowdown, a substantial slowdown 2 weeks ago on the number of properties going under contract. That is what's causing that rate to go negative year over year, the new listing to pending ratio. And the big concern that we had is this a change in the market dynamic? Is this more of a temporary thing where all of a sudden sellers are re-engaging with the market because pricing is up? We have been negative year to date on the number of new listings entering the market. And you can always get the snapshot not only by looking at your email that I send you every single morning with that snapshot, but if you go to Market Update, I update this on a daily basis. This is going to be your activity year to date. And I always update this first thing in the morning going back to January 1st. That's what I do. Okay, so we are down 3% on the number of new listings. 3%. And we are up 4% on pending. So year to date, we are still outperforming what we did last year. That's year to date, but it always changes on a weekly basis. So that's why we like looking at both numbers. So let's start taking a look at this week. Are new listings going to continue this trend of over the past few weeks dramatically being over the same week last year? I'm going to click on new listings and we are looking at, oh, this is fascinating. This is really interesting. Well, take a look at a little bit of that reversal right there, 983. Let me lock in my number key, 983. That's way less than I was expecting, 983. So even before filling out the rest, we're down 19.5%. So we are negative 348 new listings. Now, keep in mind, it's 10:14 a.m. We have another 13 hours and 46 minutes left in the day. But are we going to get 238 new listings on the market in the next 10 hours and 46 minutes? Absolutely not. Well, look, if we get 100, it's not going to happen. So we're going to be negative by quite a bit. If we get another 100 and we're at let's just say 1,085 new listings, we're going to be negative 11%. So we're going to be negative double-digit percentage already on the number of new listings entering the market. So there's a reversal. We can just say right now that marks a reversal of what we've experienced now in the past 7 weeks. We're not going to beat last year, same week last year on the number of new listings, and we're not going to beat it by a double-digit percentage. So that's interesting. Let's take a look at price increase. What's happening there? Collapsed. Interesting. 159 price increases. The lowest number since the end of the year, since December 29th through January 5th. Collapsed. Price increases collapsed. Well, you know why? Because we knew that the market started slowing down back in June. Remember what we've been saying? Hey, momentum is stalling. Listing agents, be very, very careful out there. Don't be confident with what happened in the past 2-3 months. Look at what's happening right now. Things are slowing down a little bit. Be very cautious. And all of a sudden, these agents that got caught up on the momentum of the market going back to February, March into April, they got caught off guard, especially builders. So let's take a look at price drops. 1817, not bad, but I'm focused on that percentage. 92%. Out of anything that could have gone up or down in value, what went down in value, we're at 92%. This is now the highest number going all the way back to October of last year. There is your real world case study on the market, the free market reacting to buyer demand. Buyer demand went down over the past month. All of a sudden, people are not getting the number of showings that they were getting or were expecting to get, and now they have to adjust quick. Here's that 92% price drop, and that's going to be out of anything that could have gone up or down, it went down. Okay, we have a 93%er there. We do. We have a 93% back in April. Thank you, Melanie. Melanie, Eagle Eye Melanie, it's what I call her. So there's that 93%. So highest one going all the way back to the end of April. There you have the market reacting to the forces of the market. Back on the market, we're looking at 179 back on the market. Little bit higher than the past week. Very much in line with the overall average. If I take the average back on the market going all the way back to the beginning of the year, we have an average of 17. So we're at 18. Not bad. Active under contract. Oh, this is encouraging. 452. Not a bad way to start the week at 452. So we've got an increase in price drops as a percentage, and we've got a little bit more active under contract. We've got a drop on the number of new listings. We could very well be looking at a peak active inventory, and now it starts going down. We're going to review that. This is where you get to guess. I'm not going to click on this number until I get 5 guesses. I need 5 brave souls. Melanie is going to start us off at 235. Little bit on the bullish side of things. Sonia coming in fairly bearish at 191. Charmine splitting the middle at 212. We've got 3 down, a few more to go. 3 down, a few more to go. 2 to go. I need 2. Okay, Bertina coming in at a 222. I love it. We've got 4 down, and Renee is going to finish us off at 195. Let's go ahead and take a look at the pending, and we are not bad. Charmine wins. She came closest without going over. 214. Not bad. Not bad. Not a bad way. I mean, we are 0.57 right now, starting off, and the whole week updating the pendings 2 weeks ago at a 0.59, which was really bad. So there's a little bit of a pickup right there, primarily driven by the drop on the number of new listings entering the market, drop on the back on the market. Now, the reason why this back on the market 18% is that we're comparing this to the number of new listings, but take a look at this 179 back on the market. So far, that's a fairly low number. So what does that tell us about the marketplace? Sellers are willing to negotiate with those buyers because they don't want the property back on the market. That's not a bad number. Okay? The lower the back on the market, the buyers are getting the concessions they want after the property goes under contract. It's not a bad number. Ooh, it's total 666. I'm going to change this to 5. I can't have 666. I know another one's going to go penny. I just can't have 666 on any of my stats. Call me whatever, but I just can't do that. So there, it's not bad. I'm actually quite encouraged by that 0.57 going into the day. Now, what was the number that I emailed you last Monday as a recap? Let me go to my email history and let me find that Monday recap, because last Monday was terrible. Very discouraging last Monday, but we're starting off the day, like Sonia said, good news, because 0.36. When I sent you the email recap last Monday, it was 0.36. It was like borderline depressing. Some of y'all turned to the bottle. And here we are, 0.57. That's encouraging. I will take that all day long. Do I think it's going to beat the 0.79? Do I think it's going to beat the 0.79? That's going to be tough. That's going to be a close one. I want it to be 0.79, but that's going to be really close because that's about where we started 3 weeks ago, and we did not beat that 0.79. I think it's going to be close. It's going to be very close. When it's all said and done, we'll be around 0.75 to 0.77. So I do project still underperforming compared to last year, but we're not seeing like this collapse in demand. Something really off. Was that the rain? Let's attribute that to the rain. There's always has to be a reason. It can't just be market forces. It has to be like, it's the rain. It's too hot. It's too cold. There's got to be a reason, right? That's probably what it is. We're going to attribute that to weather patterns. That's what we're going to do. Let's take a look at the updates. Now, we are down 19.5% on the number of new listings, same exact week last year. Still up on price increase year over year, down on price drops by quite a bit. We had more price drops previous 2 weeks. Now we're back negative. We're still negative 42.5% on pendings, active under contract plus pending. That's a really big number to bridge the gap. So you can see that the ratio difference is going up. 2 weeks ago, we're at double digit. We're going to finish this at about the single digit, 8-9% drop on the new listing to pending ratio same week, because we're going to keep on updating the pendings and the active under contracts. We know that. So we're off by 27%. We're off by 42% on properties under contract, but we know we always have to update this on a weekly basis because we know that agents are really bad when it comes to updating the properties that go under contract. And by the way, I am seeing more of that where agents, what is the rule? The rule is 1 business day. They've got 1 business day to change the status of the transaction once it goes under contract. I am seeing agents not even touch the status until after the option period or after the option deadline, like the delivery of the option money, earnest money. I'm even seeing agents that are purposefully delaying changing the status until after the amendment is negotiated. So if the contract falls through, they don't mark it as it going under contract and then back on the market. That is against the rules. I don't like it when people do that. That's totally against the rules, but I am noticing more and more of that. And that puts the buyer's agents in a little bit of a tough spot because if you press them on it and then you have to negotiate repairs, you start off on a really bad footing. Take it transaction by transaction. Don't make a universal policy on, I'm going to turn this person in and make sure they update it. And also just don't let them just go 20 days without updating it. Transaction per transaction. Let's go on ahead and start updating the monthly, and that's going to be the month to date. In number of new listings so far this month, 2,854. Price increases so far this month, 902. Price decreases, we're looking at over 5,000, 5101. That's going to be 85%. And the reason why that 85% is so low compared to last July, we just had a ton of price increases happen 2 weeks ago. Builders, a terrible strategy. Watch last week's Monday Morning Touch Point where we analyzed where the price increases are coming from. That's just like 1985 sales strategy that builders have. Like, it's going to go up this weekend, and then they drop the price. I hate it, can't stand it, should be illegal, but they do that. 506 back on the market, 18% in line with last year, under July of 2025. Active under contract, we're at exactly 1,200. And then pending, we're at 761. So we're at a 0.58 so far. We are 20 days into the month at a 0.58. We underperformed last month at a 0.70 compared to a 0.72. And then we've been overperforming the entire year up until June. That's when we started underperforming. Last July, we ended the month at a 0.75. We're at 0.58. We're not going to outperform last July. When you look at the monthly, we do the weekly to see what's happening this week, because as you saw with the data, things do change on a weekly basis. So we are doing better this week than we were the previous week. We're still underperforming year over year. In the entire month of July, we're going to underperform. This is going to mark our second month in a row where we are going to underperform on the new listen to pending ratio compared to the same month last year. Let's take a look at withdrawn. I am noticing an uptick on withdrawn. I'm withdrawing more listings, 593. And let's take a look at an expired, already 212 expired listings. So let's take a look at the monthly year over year. On new, we're down by 36.1, but we do have roughly a third of the month left. But we are down 47.9 on sold. We're down 51.5 on pending. So we're down 36.1 on new, but down 47. Out of curiosity, why are you withdrawing listings? Because sellers realize that the summer demand is over, and they're going to try again early, late winter, early spring, February, maybe try to rent the property out, or especially if they lived in the property. It's very common for us to see that uptick in withdrawals coming towards the end of July as school is starting August. So like, you know what, let's just hunker down now. We missed the season. We missed the selling season. Let's go ahead and withdraw the property, reevaluate our plans, our desires, get school out of the way, get Thanksgiving, Christmas, right? Because as soon as school starts, it's like the trickle of holidays. You go into Halloween, which is, third most popular. It's not even a holiday, but celebration in America. Then you go into Thanksgiving, then you go into Christmas, and let's just get the house ready for that February, March relisting timeframe. That's why we see an uptick in that withdrawn towards the end of July, early August timeframe. Very good question. So there we have it. That's your new listen to pending ratio. Take a look at the email that I'm going to send you today with this PDF. Use this with your seller consultations, your buyer consultations. And now let us take a look at what we have in store this week for the economic calendar. You can see behind me that not the best day in the world for the bond market. It is up 4 basis points right now. If you look at the rate sheet that Robert so generously gave us this morning, we're at exactly the same rate we were last Friday, this past Friday. We're at 6.625 on conventional, 6.25 FHA VA, USDA. So still a little bit of an elevated rate environment. Bond market is confirming that this stays. We're right in between two repricing lines. So we would have to go up about another 4 basis points for us to enter a higher repricing line. That's a lot to cover. Now, what is happening this week that may influence rates? We've got tomorrow some employment, Wednesday mortgage data, commodity data is coming out on Wednesday. This ought to be a fairly slow week when it comes to rates leading up to Friday. We do have some purchaser manager index new home sales coming out on Friday. That's going to be, more real estate related, but shouldn't affect the market that much. But we also have geopolitical events that are happening, full-blown engagement going on in Iran right now. Of course, unfortunately, 3 service members killed over the weekend, 2 in Jordan, 1, I believe, in Iraq. So there's a lot going on that's affecting the bond market. Purely on the economic news, this ought to be a inconsequential week for the bond market outside of what's happening geopolitically. Let's take a look at next week, because next week we have a lot going on. We've got the home price index coming out. We've got consumer confidence. Mortgage information always comes out on Tuesday, but the big one is going to be PCE. That's personal consumption expenditure. That is the Fed's preferred inflation marker. Of course, on Wednesday at 1300 hours, also known as 1 p.m., you've got the Fed rate decision. They're currently at 3.75. I don't foresee an environment where they go up or down. I think they're going to stay at exactly 3.75. The big one is going to be Thursday. PCE, GDP, a lot of economic data coming out next week. So we've got a slow week this week. The only effect is going to be geopolitically. Very big week next week. Not so much on the rate decision. They're going to stay flat on that. More so on the economic data coming out both on Thursday, July 30th, and also Friday, July 31st. So this week ought to be calm on the economic side of things. And let's take a look at your Austin Daily Briefing. Lots to go over here, and I'm going to go ahead and open up, in addition to the Austin Daily Briefing, the active residential listing resource that we update every single morning, because we are noticing a pullback. I would say, based on the data that's come out over the past 5 business days, going back to Tuesday of last week, we have already reached peak active listing. And I've got the data to prove that. We had a pretty big influx on the number of new listings entering the market July 3rd, but it ended July 13th. So this bump up in sellers putting their homes on the market, and that's what we've been saying, like, hey, we're noticing more and more active listings on the market, sellers re-engaging with the market, bringing homes to market. That lasted 10 days. And then it just stopped. As a matter of fact, if you take a look at the analysis that I put together on a daily basis, the title of this analysis that was put out today was exactly that. It's like, hey, we've reached a peak here. The email that I sent out to those who have subscribed to the Austin Daily Briefing. So I've got a list of people that subscribe to that daily briefing where they just get an email every single morning. The title of that email says, "Supply just stopped climbing." That was the title of the email for the Austin Daily Briefing. Supply just stopped climbing. And we can see
Clever.
that. Who's that? Someone said something. I have no idea who said that. Someone. I can hear someone, but that's okay. Supply just absolutely stopped climbing. So let's take a look at the actual data. we're going to focus on this chart right here. Active residential listings. Last year, and I got to change that number. That's supposed to be a date, not a number field. I'll have to change that. Last year, that date right there is Monday, June 30th. That's when supply peaked. Monday, June 30th of last year at 18,146. And then it just started going down. And look at what happened this year. We had two little peaks right there, but you see how that momentum has stalled, and now we're going down. And I can tell you right now, based on tracking the market on a daily basis for years and years and years, the fact that we're July 20th right now, I can tell you that line's not going to go up. It's now going to reverse course, and active listings will now go down. So I can say with a 99% degree of confidence, which is high, go to Vegas with that kind of degree of confidence, that peak supply, peak active listings, it was actually reached. We've got 17,809. It was that right there. It was 17,809. And then we went negative, 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 plus 74, which is not much. And then we're negative 25 right now. So as we continue to update this data, and we're going to see, we're going to be able to say July 13th was the peak active listing of this year. So we underperformed last year on the peak active listings. And we can see that that line has stalled. 2 years ago, it was July 15th. Last year was June 30th. This year, what was the date that I'm telling you right now? July 13th. That was peak active listing. Now it's going to follow this same trend. It goes down. It goes down. And we're going to see this line going down all the way to December into January. January tends to be the lowest. And then people start re-engaging with the market, adding those listings back on the market. So the good news is, the market has found its peak inventory. We are outperforming last year when it comes to inventory. And take a look at this monthly change. This goes all the way back to June 2022. This is plus minus. Anything under this zero line means inventory as a nominal figure went negative. Anything over that black line means that inventory positive. And we hit a pretty big number right there in 2025. And we did not even come close to that 2026. And now, of course, we are close to that monthly change being negative. Take a look at what else? Let me look at something else. Look at this one. Active listings, year over year change. There's that zero. We're now under that zero. So we are underperforming last year on the number of active listings. Let me show you that. We're down 1.64%. That additional number of active listings, it peaked. Now it's going down. And it's going to follow this trajectory that we saw back in 2024, 2025. We can go all the way back to 1990. And we will see this same trajectory where the number of active listings now starts going down. Now, what about the pending side of things? Let me go back to this chart because I really like this one. Look at when pendings peaked. Pendings this year peaked May. And towards the end of April, actually, pendings peaked. Last year, middle of May. 2 years ago, middle of April. 3 years ago, middle of April. And right now, pendings right towards the end of April, rolling into May, that's when pendings peaked. We outperformed pendings this year. Peak outperformed compared to 2025 and 2024. And we're not hitting a new high on the number of active listings. So we've got improved market conditions compared to last year, both on the number of pending transactions and on the number of active transactions, active inventory currently on the market. 54.3% of all listings have had a price drop at any time during the course of that listing. The activity index, we are currently at 20.2%. The resale at 17.35. New construction outpacing resale. It always happens at 28.01%. Activity index, pending divided by active plus pending, one of the best leading market indicators available. And we can see that not a single city is on expansion equilibrium. On the zip code side of things, we've got 3 zip codes that stand out as being high demand: 39, 56, and 28. 28 is now back over 30%. It went under 30% for a season, back over 30%. That's going to be your Wells Branch area. Those are the 3 zip codes that are outperforming the entire market. On the city side of things, best city is going to be Cedar Park at 25%, bordering softening in equilibrium, right at that border. But I can't call it green at the equilibrium side of things because it's not over 25%, exactly 25%. But look how many cities are now in the contraction danger zone. So we don't have a lot of pending transactions in those cities. So you have to be hyper local with the market. Let's take a look at a few more things. Months of inventory, a lagging indicator. We are down 5.9% on months of inventory. That number is going to continue to go down because you have less properties closing between now and when this bottoms out towards February. And then months of inventory starts picking up, but it's a lagging indicator. You have to be obsessed. The most deceptive time in real estate for an agent and a listing agent is July to October. That's the most deceptive time in real estate for an agent because you're pulling your comps, you're running your CMAs based on what happened in a completely different market. So you've got to rely right now on the activity index, on the demand side of the curve, as opposed to the months of inventory sold price, which is what happened. And we know that we are now closing a really good selling season. We had high demand for 14 weeks in a row, and then that demand pulled back a little bit. 90% of it seasonal. But now you're comparing a property that closed July 1st, went under contract end of May. That was a really good demand area, but you're not experiencing the same demand right now. And it's going to show your activity index might be negative year to date, negative year over year. And that's why when you go to activity index zip code, you've got to access this resource and take a look at the activity index, not only year over year, but also from the peak, and analyze your zip code very carefully. Some of them, take a look at 28. 28, just huge rebound. An 82.8% increase year over year on the activity index, but yet a 37% drop from peak. So if you're looking, think about it this way. If a property closed in February, right, went pending in February, because that's measuring demand. That's measuring properties that went pending in relation to properties that are currently active on the market. If a property went under contract in February, when did it close? March, April timeframe. So you had 51.7% of anything that could be under contract went under contract in that zip code in February. That's crazy high demand, which means that seller, if it's priced right, is getting near full price offer for that property, very little concession, unbelievably high demand. So that property closes, went under contract in February, closes in April. Well, by April, demand is already down 25%, less than half demand compared to just 2 months ago. Little bit of a pickup, but that's going to be a comp. That property that went under contract in February, closed in April, is going to be a comp that you're using. So you're going to say, well, I don't understand why I'm not getting any showings. That property closed in April, and all of a sudden I'm not getting showings. That property closed for close to list price, and now I've already done a price drop. Well, that's because you're looking at February sky-high demand, and you're trying to price your property right now. You cannot do that. You have to look at today's demand. You have to be obsessed with that leading market indicator as opposed to the lagging. Don't discount the lagging indicator. Look at all the information, but be obsessed with a leading market indicator, and that's going to be your activity index. Let's go back to your daily briefing. And when you look at months of inventory, there's no clearer chart on how much better we are doing this year compared to last year at the city level. And we also have this chart available for the zip code level. I'd be happy to show that to you here shortly. On the city level, we've got 17 cities that have lower months of inventory compared to exactly the same month last year. Let's go ahead and take a look at the zip code level. When you go to months of inventory, it gives you a super big resource, 20 pages, and buried somewhere in the 20 pages, page 13, you can see that figure right there. Even at the zip code level, 53 zip codes, 70%, 7 out of 10 zip codes, less inventory this year compared to last year. Do you think that's significant? That's huge. That's super significant. Now, if you're in the 78705, then depending on the price point, you've got some challenges. And when I say depending on the price point, because not only is everything hyperlocal, but everything is also product specific. Because look at 05. Months of inventory between $700,000 and $800,000 is only 3. Super attractive. $400,000 to $500,000, y'all. If I get a listing appointment at $450,000 in 7705, I will pay them not to take that listing. Like I'll show up to the listing appointment and I'll give them $250 so they can buy, a box of wine to drown out their sorrows or something. Like I'm not taking a listing at that price point. It's just not going to happen. There's nothing's happening there. 63 months of inventory. That's just pitiful. That's terrible. Is that the biggest one out of everything? I believe it is. Yeah, that's the largest one. Like you're better off listing a $320,000 property in Dale than you are a $450,000 property in the 05. You cannot pay me to take that listing. So you've got to be very, very specific. Yeah, price it at 501. You're better off pricing at 501. If it's not going to sell anyway, might as well overprice it. I agree with you, Sonia. So be very, very diligent on analyzing that specific price point on whatever zip code that you're listing a property. We are expecting a flat year-over-year number of sold properties. The reason we're expecting a flat year-over-year is because we did notice a pullback on the number of pending transactions in the month of June. But the good news is that we are up. When you look at every single property that has ever sold using the projection for the next 10 days, we are up 5.9%. On the realtor side of things, we are up 11.6%. That's when we take every sold property divided by the number of active agents currently in the market. Gives us a really good apples-to-apples comparison. We're up 11.6%, which is why I started off the year saying, hey, this is why I'm bullish for Austin real estate. Because we saw this coming. We started off the year saying, this is why I'm bullish in Austin real estate. We are going to outperform the previous few years. It's not going to be an explosive recovery, but it will be a market recovery. We started calling it a market recovery, 3-4 months ago based on the leading indicators. Pricing wise, I continue to be amazed on how pricing is performing right now. We are up month over month on the average price. We're up on the median price. We're up year over year by a staggering 8.3% on the average sold price. We are up 4.7% on the median. The reason why the gap is so big is because the top 25th percentile continues to dramatically outperform the bottom 25th percentile. We're actually negative on the bottom 25th percentile. Whereas we are positive 8.1% on the top 25th percentile, which is really amazing. The demand for the higher end of the market continues to go up as far as the entire market is concerned. So, which cities do you have to be cautious? And we also have this information available for zip code. If you go to percentile analysis on Insight or on Austin Metrics, we've got this information available both for cities and for zip codes. Anytime you see a red dot, that means that the top 25th percentile is underperforming the bottom 25th percentile. If you see negatives across the board and you see a red dot, I'm going to find a negative across the board with a red dot, 3, 5. You've got negative across the board, both on the bottom 25th percentile. You've got negative on the top 25th percentile with red dots, both on the price and the price per foot. 4, 5, you've got negative across the board. 3, 0, you've got negative across the board with a red dot. That tells me right now, if I have a listing in any one of these zip codes, my guarantee is that prices are going to go down. Prices are going to go down over the next 30, 60, 90 days. It's a guarantee. It's going to pull pricing down. The top 25th percentile is not propping up the entire median price, meaning the top 25th percentile is actually eroding price at a faster pace. So that's going to be your warning zip code, 4, 5, 3, 5. Anytime you see that red dot with reds across the board, you just have to be cautious, especially if you're listing a property within that area. You might have a fairly decent activity index, it's a 25% activity index. It's 4 months of inventory. Yes, I understand that, but look at what's selling. Pricing is going to erode because the median price is selling for less. The erosion is happening at that top 25th percentile more, meaning the median price is eroding. And we also have one of my favorite charts. It's going to be this one because this one breaks down all pricing categories from 5 percentile all the way to 95th percentile. 5 percentile, the cheapest 5% of homes, 95th percentile, the top 5% of homes. And it shows you exactly where pricing is going up, where pricing is going down. Pricing is a direct reflection to demand in real estate. I'm so glad that we sell a product that is influenced. Demand is always communicated by pricing. If demand is up, pricing absolutely goes up. That's why we have that chart to communicate this. So far this year, when you look at the median sold price for every single property that has sold this entire year, we have 7 cities that are up in value. We have 23 cities that are down in value. When you look at the entire market, so far this year, 17,765 properties have sold. The average sold price is up $4,114, whereas the median sold price is actually down by 1.2%. But we do have a improvement on the sold to list price ratio. People are getting better at pricing the homes, and that's a really nice improvement from 71.1% all of last year to 97.1 up to 97.3%. Let's take a look at the absorption ratio. This was updated for the month of June. We will not update the month of July until about July 25th because we have to wait until a lot of properties close, and then we'll update the month of July. But we have done very well on the absorption ratio. And then lastly, the market flow score. That is where we rate the market from 0 to 10. 10 meaning incredible market, cannot get any better, cannot get any hotter. 0 meaning the worst market in the world. It's going to be absolutely terrible. It's a terrible month. Only one month had a 0. That was January 2009. We are outperforming the past 2 years, which is really, really good, very encouraging for the month of June. The big one is going to be the month of July. Will we outperform that 4.56? That's going to be the big question that we have. And the reason why it's such a big question is because a true market turnaround needs the market flow score to outperform the previous month 4 months in a row, consistently outperform for an absolute true market turnaround. So we have seen that. We saw that February, March, April, May. So we're entering Like this is our 5th month. That's why I call it a market recovery, because we're already in our 5th month where it's outperforming. What we want to see is a continued momentum with the market outperforming. That's why I call it a recovery. That's why back in January, I said, hey, the data's looking good. Even when this number was 3.25, we were looking at what? We were looking at permitting data. What kind of product is coming to market? What's happening with the affordability in the area? And we noticed all of those markers improving. So we were able to call it really early saying, hey, we're bullish for the Austin market. Prices are going to go up because of the affordability. Things simply got affordable, which now means that buyers are able to purchase real estate. Pricing is going up a little bit more, and I know you're going to hate me saying this. Pricing on the average side of things is going up a little bit more than I actually would want it to see. I want the appreciation just to slow down a little bit so that it can be a sustained, continued market improvement. I do not like markets that are erratic, up by a lot, crashing, up by a lot, crashing. I don't like to see that. So the average price is a little bit hotter than I'm expecting or hoping for right now, but that's driven by the top 25th percentile. When you look at the median, it's not bad. The median, so far this month, we're plus 4.7. Okay, this is year over year. This is where you see year over year. We were flat. I'll take that. I want the market to go back to a boring real estate market where the market appreciates at between 3.5% and 4% a year. And every year, okay, you might have a 2.5, you might have a 5. That's the market that I want to be in, just a boring real estate market. Boring real estate markets are good real estate markets. Erratic markets where prices go up at 20%. That does not lay a good foundation for a future market. We've certainly experienced that in our area. And you all, that is your Austin Daily Briefing. Any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, or complaints? I love coffee. Going once. Going twice. Good stuff, you all. That's all I have. I want to remind you that we do have our Wednesday broker Q&A at 10 a.m. Be sure to join us for that broker Q&A contract review. And the amazing Charmene is our first ever Team Price agent to have completed a contract proficiency using Broker Mint. So way to go, Charmene. Super proud of you. Not only are you like the first one, I think you're the only one. So way to go. Super, super proud of you. And, really, really proud of you. And keep in mind, you all, the reason why we have a start date on Broker Q&A or on Broker Mint of September 1st is that based on your feedback, we're just clarifying things, right? Oh, this didn't make any sense. Okay, well, let's just improve our systems and all that. Everyone received an email with your login and then an email with your onboarding. You have to complete those two in order to get access to Broker Mint, which is replacing Transaction Desk. Go ahead and do that. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. And then based on your feedback, what I'm doing is I am going to create a Broker Mint working group where I'm going to get your feedback on the checklist that we are doing. So the way that you see Broker Mint right now, as far as the tasks in the checklist, that's not the end product. I'm going to get your feedback. If you have a client that needs to submit an offer today, are you going to use Broker Mint? I actually beg you not to. There is a transition into Broker Mint. You will still use Transaction Desk. The board is not going to discontinue Transaction Desk until December 7th. It's an overlap. We're not shutting a product today and then starting another one tomorrow. That's no wisdom in doing that. This is the time to create the account, look at the system, kind of start playing with the system, click on it, follow the videos, watch the videos. I'm going to get feedback from you all, improve the system, improve the process with a September 1st launch date. meaning the expectation is, hey, starting September 1st, start writing your offers on BrokerMint. Like, we're going to have to transition to that. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, because the board is ceasing Transaction Desk. And the new product that's going to replace Transaction Desk, called Transact, is terrible. It's absolutely dreadful. I did a demo for that product for you all, and it is terrible. There's no way that we can transition to that. That's why we're transitioning to BrokerMint. And I also, lastly, want to remind you that we are building these resources on resources.teamprice.com. For example, this morning, I created this page. Hey, setting up your BrokerMint account. Step 1, hey, find the email, title this. Step 2, complete this email. And I've already had a few agents saying, Dan, I never got the email. Great, I'll resend it to you. Not a big deal. So let's get the accounts created and go from there. Charmene said, can I discuss it with you? Yeah, absolutely. Not only are we going to continue to discuss it, but I'm going to put together Zoom workshops, live small workshops. It's like, hey, I'm available at 10 and 2, max 5 people come into the conference room and do not only the live workshops, but also Zoom, also video. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities for us to really learn the system and start using the system to its fullest. So absolutely. And I am creating that BrokerMint working group. If you want to volunteer for that, make sure that you send me an email. If you're like, hey, I want to be in that group, I want to provide feedback and input into BrokerMint, especially when it comes to what documents do we make mandatory. There's some at the broker level that I have to make mandatory. What items do you want to see on the checklist? Is it too much? Is it not enough? So send me an email if you want to be a part of that working group. Kevin said, I didn't have great luck getting started over the weekend. Hey, reach out to me. I'll walk over that process, right? So reach out to me. We can do a Zoom call. You can come to the office in person. I can get you set up. We can do it over the phone. So, but if you want to be a part of that working group and you want to provide input into the checklist, into the process, and this is what I mean by checklist. I'm going to do this last thing and then we're going to end. Here are all the checklists. So for example, buyer contract to close. These are all items that I can add to a checklist. I can add as many items as I want. So anything that you see a green, it's a broker mandatory, right? So do you think the broker needs a copy of the executed contract? Yeah, like I need a copy of that. Now, other ones, okay, do I need a copy of the T47? Well, kind of not really, okay? And then other ones like the executed amendment. Yeah, I need a copy of that. Okay, so that's where, I want to have a discussion with you on what's the best sequence for the checklist. I don't care about having scheduled closing here, but if you want it, we can add it, right? So we can make it really flexible and really easy for the agents to keep track of that. Violet said, creating the password was not friendly over the weekend. Finally got it to work this AM. Well, I'm glad it worked. So glad it worked out. If you have any issues with it, please let me know and I can resend the link. I can always resend the link and get you all set up. Good stuff, you all. That is all I have. I do realize that transitions are never fun. I am fully aware of that. Even for those who like change, transition can be nerve-wracking. That's why we're doing it with plenty of time. Like I begged an agent last week, like, oh, I'm going to write my first offer on broker. I'm like, no. Until you do 10 practice contracts, don't write an offer for a real client on BrokerMint. Just learn the system first. And there's plenty of overlap. That's all I have. Thank you all so very much for joining. Super appreciated. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day. And if you do have any questions, please let me know. Here to help, and I will chat with you later.